The meeting for the Finance and Human Resources Committee meeting is called to order on Wednesday, October 27th at 6:03 p.m. Would you call the roll, please?
Alderperson Kastner?
Present.
Alderperson Bailey?
Present.
Alderperson Sari?
Present, thank you. Item 2, approval of the October 13th, 2021 Finance and Human Resources Committee meeting minutes.
Make a motion to approve minutes. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 3, discussion and decision to approve transferring $35,000 from reserves to purchase materials for a building to store and protect equipment. Mr. Laskowski. Hi.
I gotta turn that darn thing on.
There you go, sorry. Hello, thank you. It has been the intent of the DPW to construct a cold storage building for about 8 years. We actually removed the Walmart Garden Center building from the old Walmart property up on Highway 100 in Layton and stored it in our yard for years. And now with the other stormwater improvements that we've done in the yard and investigating the materials that are currently on hand from that Walmart Garden Center, those are corroded and not structurally sound. What we'd like to do is literally scrap that material and put the funding into the DPW reserves, as well as purchase a building like a pole barn from, actually from Menards, to store some of our off-season equipment, which would be salters and trailers, traffic control, maybe some of our mortar and things like that for off-season storage. Just lights inside of it, no water or anything, or heat or anything like that, strictly cold storage. We could utilize the space. This was my predecessor, Dan Ewert's wish for years, because we have so much stuff on the property, and to get it out of the elements would help us a lot, so.
So part of the Walmart building and some of the other scrap material, it's part of the Walmart building that we removed, and part of the scrap material that had been sold over the course of time had been put into a kitty for this purpose.
Yes.
We've been talking about trying to get the Walmart structure, which was the old garden center, didn't have walls, you recall, right? And it's just not, it's not going to work the way as good as a cold storage building would for the time, effort, and cost that would go into it. So it's essentially money on hand, as I understand it, right, Paula? To do it. The old scrap that had been sold, coupled with the new scrap that will be generated by the sale of the material that we removed from the Walmart facility way back when.
Can I have permission to be sarcastic?
You can.
You forgot how to put it together?
No.
Not at all, not at all. It had its limitations.
The pole building you're gonna present is probably gonna look a lot better
Yes, sir.
from the highway and everything else.
Yes.
So it's definitely a good idea.
So the Walmart building too was also, had a roof, but there weren't really walls that protected it from the elements.
It probably sitting in a pile, it probably did rust away.
A little bit, yeah.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 4, discussion and decision to approve a resolution moving the polling location for Ward 18 from Greenfield Public Library and Wards 19, 20, and 21 from Elmdale School, Adoration Lutheran Church. Two, it should be 2. Right, yeah, that's 3840 West Edgerton Avenue, beginning in 2022 for all future elections. And should we?
Can I make a
Can we
motion to
take-
approve?
Yes?
You can.
Yep.
I mean, just so people that may be watching at home, there's been a desire for student safety and for a whole number of reasons not to have elections in schools. I mean, there's arguments for it, there's arguments against it. We've been trying to accommodate the school district. Part of the school board would like not to have elections in the schools. Part of the school district would like to have elections in schools. So it's been a challenge to find a place where we can have elections that meet all the requirements. Adoration Lutheran Church on 40th, roughly in Edgerton.
Correct.
You'll recall, we had discussions with them a couple of years ago. They lost their pastor, or were getting a pastor, and then COVID hit. Apparently, we're in a position now where they're agreeable to do it. It's one of the few places. It's actually very convenient for all of these wards compared to, they used to have to come over here to the community center, I think, during COVID times, right?
Right.
So it's closer. 19, 20, and 21 are all in Shirley's district. I can't remember where 18 is.
18 would be moving from the library, and so what that change does is just keep all of the District 5 wards voting at one location
I
together.
can't remember where 18 was, though, as a ward.
It was at the library.
No,
previous.
the ward. I don't remember what the ward is.
Oh,
where
on
it
the
is.
map, correct.
Yeah, I don't remember where, but
I didn't bring a map.
it's a good thing. So,
Did we,
I didn't get a second. Make a motion to approve? Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
I just want to publicly thank Jennifer. This is not a small task, believe it or not. It's not like you just call up somebody and say, can we be there? Right?
Takes
It's not
time.
easy to coordinate these things between.
Item 5, discussion and decision to approve a facility use agreement with Adoration Lutheran Church to provide a polling location for elections.
This is the agreement. You've approved the change to the polling places, which is required in the form of a resolution by law. This is the actual agreement with the church.
Right, and we do have a provision in there to pay them $250 per election, just to hopefully cover the costs. And if that didn't cover the costs for heat, electric, at some point we could reevaluate that if we wish.
It's $250 per election, which seems completely reasonable.
I assume we'll help out with snow removal if need be?
That's correct. They don't have the people to do that, so if we did have to plow during election, it would be our DPW. And Steve Prokop, who is the working foreman on elections, had said, discussions with John, I believe, that was okay with them.
He was nodding while you were talking.
What's that?
He was nodding while you were talking.
Okay.
So wherever we've had elections, whether it's at Whitnall or in the Greenfield schools or any other, we have to make sure that the facilities and the grounds meet certain standards and are shoveled and plowed and everything. I think we've assisted in the past at
I
all
think
those locations.
Whitnall's, the reason I'm running away from there, I'm assuming, is Whitnall set up that you can segregate the polling place better from the students.
That's correct. Yes, at Whitnall, they have the ability to do that.
There's a desire to keep the public away from the students in elections, right? Which makes sense.
There's not going to be any problems with anybody saying that it's in a church, you're voting in a church.
So we thought about
You know,
that
the
early
state
on.
and church,
It's a
separation.
There is
common
no,
practice statewide for elections to be held in religious institutions.
correct.
I mean, somebody will complain about it, I'm sure, because somebody complains about everything, but I think from a legal standpoint, it's completely permissible.
That's correct. It is.
Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 6, discussion and decision to approve a resolution moving the polling location for wards 1, 2, 3, and 4 from Glenwood Elementary School, 3550 South 51st Street, to the Greenfield Community Center, 7215 West Cold Spring Road, beginning in 2022 for all future elections.
So this change would take wards 1, 2, 3, and 4 out of Glenwood School and put them into the Greenfield Community Center temporarily. And it is possible, because we're using the Badger Book technology, it is possible that these wards could stay there. We're going to see how it goes. But Badger Books make voting pretty quick and efficient as opposed to the paper process in the past. But we had looked at previously Salvation Army. Before COVID hit, we were approved to use their location for wards 1, 2, 3, and 4. But currently, they've changed their minds. They said they are not saying that we can't use that location in the future, but at the present, due to COVID, that they did not want us to use it currently. So we would like to look at that site again in the future for wards 1, 2, 3, and 4 if we feel that it's needed. But this would at least take them out of the school for now.
So normally, that's my wards are 5, 6, 7, and 8, and it's community center.
Yes.
And it was all set up sort of nice, and we had the whole room. And now are we gonna be too crowded? Are we gonna be able to handle the volume
I think
over
it's
there?
gonna, I think it's gonna be fine. I really do. And, you know, the governor's election is this November, which does not usually have as large of a turnout as a presidential election. So, I think it'll be fine with Badger Books. And they certainly have the other rooms to spread out into for voter check-in if we need to. And we could use those rooms as well.
All right.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 7, discussion and decision to approve a resolution moving the polling location for wards 13, 14, and 15 from King of Glory Church, 4330 South 84th Street, to the Greenfield Public Library, 5310 West Layton Avenue, beginning in 2022 for all future elections.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
So just one quick thing before you, so King of Glory is actually closer to 13, 14, and 15, I believe,
Correct?
than the public library, but it's not that far away. King of Glory was
It's
actually,
less than 2 miles.
yeah, it's less than 2 miles, but King of Glory was actually a better place, but we just not doing it there anymore.
Why?
Right, so this will put all of the wards together for District 5 to vote together at the library. And what we have found with Badger Books is, you know, in the past, we needed all these polling locations to spread out. We had paper took longer, we had longer lines, things were not as efficient. But now with Badger Book, things are much more efficient. Using technology, people are in and out quicker. We are not seeing the lines that we had seen in the past, and we don't need the space to lay out the various wards at the polling location that we had to previously. So with Badger Books, things operate a little bit differently at the polling site when people check in and vote. So we just don't feel that we need all of those polling locations that we had in the past.
So there's two things happening here, right? Well, this one is more convenient, it's one less polling place,
Correct.
which makes it more efficient, which requires less people at the polls.
Correct.
And we're gonna be sending out letters telling people that they have a new polling place.
We will send postcards, correct. We have to, we'll have the resolutions. There's a lot of different notifications that we have to do after this, and we will do that. We'll put it on our website. We'll update the elections database for the My Vote website where people see things. We'll publish it in our next green sheet, those kinds of things. And voters will get postcards sent to them, notifying them of this change. And we are required to notify them of the change.
We do this every time. There are always people that don't see the postcards, notifications, and all that, but you do a very, very good job. We don't have a huge problem with it, but there are always some people that go to the wrong place.
Then, in that case, do we put a sign
Yes.
on the old polling place? Because there's gonna be somebody going there and they're gonna go, oh my God, and all of a sudden they can see the sign, your new polling place is the Greenfield Library or whatever.
Yes, we will do that.
What do you think the percentage of people that are going to come back to voting live?
That's a good question.
The rules haven't been
Not-
completely, so there was the election integrity
The audit report.
just
that
came out, right? And they said everything is cool. But there seems to be a political or partisan bickering over what should happen, especially with drop-off boxes
Right.
and those kinds of things. But those haven't really been a big concern for us. The absentee ballots will be for sure.
Right.
Mailing out a ton of
Right.
ballots and everyone getting 3 or 4 of them or whatever, yeah.
I'm not even sure even what to expect with staffing, you know, how many people will want to come back or not come back, or how voters are going to feel with the various COVID variants and it's really hard to say.
Do we have yeah, we did. We just need to vote.
Right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thanks. Item 8, approval of mileage reimbursements in the amount of $59.36.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 9, September 2021 investments and reinvestments.
Make a motion to proceed as normal.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 10, approval of schedules of disbursements in the amount of $1,371,894.19.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Item 11, accept September 2021 financial statements.
Make a motion to accept.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Item 12, budget discussion.
There's just a couple things. First, Paula reminded me today that we actually had some good news. The Milwaukee, or Southwest Now, or the Now newspaper actually published our notices on time.
Both of them?
It's, well, one of them. Didn't you send me that? We only need one.
Oh, we only need one?
Yeah, great, we need two. So, no, so the notice has been published, which means that everything in the mid-November for the public hearing is set and it's okay. Remember, we're always worried that those notices don't get published, which could push back.
That could be a problem.
Could be a huge problem, especially with tax bills needing to go out by the beginning of December-ish, right? Second thing I wanted to talk about, at the last meeting, we talked a little bit, Common Council meeting, we talked about our fire department having discussions with West Dallas's fire department regarding combining, consolidating fire districts, all those things. Those things are proceeding. We had another meeting today, Zoom meeting, Teams meeting, between the chiefs and the mayor and administrator in West Dallas. We both remain committed to following through with that process. There's been some angst, I think, and uncertainty and concern expressed by a number of folks that work for the fire service or had worked for the fire service or in command of the fire service in one way, shape, or form. The whole point that I need to remind everybody is that the point is to make sure that we maintain the services that our citizens expect, right, and deserve in the most cost-effective manner as possible. The levy limits have played a huge role in the providing of emergency services and all services in municipalities, not only in our city, but in other cities and throughout the state of Wisconsin. This is one way to make certain that those services remain at the high level that our constituencies certainly expect. There was also some concern, I think, expressed by many about, well, how come this happened so fast, right?
That's what I heard too.
Yeah,
They were trying
how
to-
come this happened so fast? Well, it's been going on for, there have been talks between our communities since the 70s and 80s concerning this, and the 90s and the early 2000s and the 2010s, which we're no longer in. And it's always, in each one of those discussions, it's always been, well, it's not bad enough, or it'll be fine, or the sky is always falling and all that stuff. The reality is right now, I think our Common Council and the West Dallas Common Council and the mayors of the first and third largest suburbs in Milwaukee County recognize that, the sky is really kind of right on our shoulders, and we need to act preemptively to make sure that the public safety of our constituencies is maintained. We really did talk about this for the first time. Myself and the administrators of two other cities met at a Mexican restaurant in West Dallas and talked about the challenges that we were facing as communities. We were the top 3 suburbs, I think, within Milwaukee County. You can probably figure out who that was. West House and the city of Greenfield agreed, and I think I've been a strong proponent of combining resources and services for the 15 or 16 years that I've been in office, and prior to that, I think Alderperson Castor would concur with that. Even as an alderperson, I was very supportive of working with our neighbors to provide the most cost-effective, best service for our constituents. So yes, it did happen quickly. Yes, this hadn't been in the works. It's been in the works for 30 or 40 years, but recently, very recently and very expeditiously, it came to the surface again in a conversation that we had. There are other opportunities floating around out there, but this is the one that we're focusing on right now. I want to talk a little bit more about the budget and how things are moving forward. So there's also some discussions floating out there that I just want to be crystal clear about. The Milwaukee County is trying to create a countywide health department, which would, and they've done some studying to show how good that would be. Recently at an ICC meeting, I got into a little bit of a discussion with a supervisor who was there, who thought that they already had a county health department, was sure that they did. Had to remind him that they didn't, that it was the city of Milwaukee that had a health department, and the suburbs generally had health departments. The North Shore has a combined health department. It would be my position, at least publicly, that the city has no desire in being part of a county-wide health department, but certainly would explore opportunities with our suburban brethren to create a health department if it was in the best interest of everyone to provide for the best health and safety of our communities. Milwaukee County, as you probably well know, has some significant financial issues that it needs to deal with, very significant issues. I think they've probably bought themselves a year or two with some significant ARPA dollars, which are federal COVID dollars that are floating around out there, to do some of the things that they've always wanted to do and keep themselves afloat. I think the city of Milwaukee is in the same position, where they have some significant pension liabilities that are coming due. I think those ARPA dollars have also provided them with an opportunity or breathing space, according to Mayor Barrett, for a year or two. But that is simply breathing space for a year or two. In 3 or 4 years, they'll be in the same position if things don't change that they were before the COVID dollars arrived. I've been told, but have not been able to verify this, that between 2021 and 2025, the city of Milwaukee will likely have to lay off 1 in 6 employees to come to grips with its financial situation. Milwaukee County, too, will likely have to, while they have shrank dramatically in size from where they were, Milwaukee County, too, will have to engage in some pretty significant cost cutting to balance their books. What usually happens when big neighbors have to balance their books and cut services and people, usually those burdens fall upon us to pick up the slack. Finally, I just wanted to point out that, returning back to the fire service issue, Chief Cohn will probably tell you that since last year, our calls for service have increased 1,000 in a year, roughly, plus or minus, right? Some of that is a result of other communities, couple that have had financial difficulties, right? And because we share our services, right? And somebody will always respond. Some of those communities that are maybe in better shape are responding to other places where financial impediments are preventing them from providing the kinds of services that they should be, if that all makes sense. So with regard to the budget, again, the budget contemplates a 2% increase in salaries, contemplates a 5% increase in health insurance overall. Our levy dollars are about $300 and some thousand that we can raise. We went through all this before. Those two things, health insurance and those raises, as are looking forward into that budget, were not covered by the levy limit increase, allowable increase. We have to do things to change that. And, well, the sky's always falling. You're always saying that every year is bad. No, we have some breathing space with the ARPA dollars too, a little bit when it comes to capital equipment. And I've explained all that to you before. But we only have a year or two of that, right? There's been this idea, well, if I can raise revenue in my department by $500,000 this year, that should cover it. Yeah, it will, but you'll have to raise your revenue by $500,000 every year. So instead of just being $500 or $1 million worth of something, it's $1.5 million or $2 million. And that's not the way that it works long-term. So, okay?
Can I go back to the merger between the two fire departments? The one thing that we want to emphasize is that our commitment to the men and women on both forces will be able to keep their standings, their pay, their benefits, and all of that
The goal,
stuff.
so there's.
We are here to protect them as well.
The,
I know you
I
agree
would,
with that, but
I
it was
would
let-
hope
did-
that the people that work for our fire department, and I know Mayor Devine pretty well in the city of West Allis. I would hope that the men and women that work for our EMS and fire service departments understand that this is not an attempt to saw them off at their knees, right? This is not an attempt to say, well, we're going to just convert everything to a pay-on-call fire department. We're slashing your retirement, we're slashing everything. And part of that was the conversation that we had today. That is not the intent whatsoever. The intent is to make sure that there is a consistent, legally provided way to pay for the service that we are entitled to and deserve as citizens of our city. It's incredibly competitive to get people to join your departments. Police Department Chief Johnson's here tonight. He can share stories, I think, of other departments in immediate area that are having a very difficult time recruiting. The same holds true for the fire service. The same holds true. John, Superintendent of Public Works, is here. He's been trying to find laborers and operators and all sorts of people. It's been extremely difficult, right? The world is becoming much, much more competitive to recruit and retain employees. Certainly slashing benefits or slashing this or slashing that isn't necessarily the right way to recruit people. In fact, it's probably the way to make sure that you don't recruit people or recruit people that place you in more of a financial predicament in the future because they make a mistake, right? You can, I've gone through this a million times. You can pay for somebody that knows what they're doing and is a professional and looks out for the best interests of its employee, which would be the city and its citizens. Or you can hire schmucks, right, that go out there, make mistakes, do stupid things, and cost the city a lot of money, right? So we want to be in the first group, not the second group. I think we've managed to do that. Some of the recent circumstances within the community, I think, show that in a very direct way without getting into specifics. I think this body hasn't had to sit, knock on wood, if there is any, there's some right there, hasn't had to sit in closed session and contemplate giving multi-million-dollar settlement offers to people because somebody did something stupid. In fact, I don't think we've done that in 15 or 16 years that I've been here. And I don't think we did it for 7 years prior to that.
That multi-million, no.
No, but we haven't, yes.
I have a constituent that called me regarding the fire department merger, and his wishes are that he would have an opportunity to say something in an open forum to the council, express his opinion. He wanted, transparency, and I was accused of not being transparent in this process. So I was wondering if somehow,
Yeah.
some way, he will have an opportunity to address either this board or our common council.
Absolutely. I mean, the whole point of this is to be transparent, right? So this
That's
is,
not how it
this is,
started.
this, well, so this is the thing, so.
I almost think it's too early.
I could secretly go to West Dallas, come up with an agreement, say, that's all planned, will you approve it? Or I could come to you transparently and say, I would like to talk to the city of West Dallas about doing this. Do I have permission? And will you support me in that? So when it comes to transparency, I think I could have done it the first way and not been transparent and probably been a lot more expeditious, right? Or I could come and do what I'm supposed to do, which is ask for permission, which is exactly what I did at the last common council meeting.
No, I'm not saying.
Just, no, I mean, just to be clear, to
The
make that
future,
record
and I
completely
told him,
straight.
you know, it's very preliminary discussions. You will have an opportunity.
Everything is preliminary. What does the contract look like? Who's paying for it? What does it mean? Who goes where? What happens to the buildings? What happens to the trucks? The process is going to take a year and a half.
Yeah.
It has just started, literally within a week or two. Chief Johnson had some concerns and his command staff had concerns about the dispatch, right? Why didn't you tell me about it? I heard, right? In fairness, because dispatch does go through EMS, right? Fire does go through the dispatch. The truth of the matter is, I need permission first. And he should have been, there's a responsibility for dispatch and there's a tie-in to dispatch. And how does that all work with I don't know how it all works
There
with
were some leaks is what, yeah.
Good God, this is everywhere, right? And I take full credit or responsibility, however you want to put it, you know, in a positive way or a negative way for the way that it happened. But the truth of the matter is, before we're even going to engage in the substantive, the meat and potatoes of the whole deal, I needed to have your permission, because I can assure you that you would be awfully pissed off at me if you had heard a leak that I was doing something with another community and you knew nothing about it. I think you would be really a lot more mad about that. Fair?
Right.
Obviously, we would have,
Yeah, I think you probably, and you would have heard it, because
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
is out there, right?
No one
So,
responds to this. I wouldn't mind if someone wanted to speak with us. I mean,
we don't even know what we're
I don't,
talking,
we don't know.
we don't even know what we're talking about.
No.
yet.
and let this person just say, he or she say what she wants, you know, that's.
Yeah,
just-
so
Well, they
this-
can always be
So-
citizen commentary at our next common council if we
So
really
I would
wanted to.
I would just point this out, that even among our employees, some of the discussion is driven strictly on subjective emotion, right? Oh my God, you know, this is that, and you're gonna do this to me, and you're gonna do that to me, and it's like, we don't even know what we're doing yet, because we really haven't even started to talk yet. Well, you know, it's been like this since ever, and, you know, and I'm so proud of can assure you that I'm very proud of my police department and fire department and public works department and parks department and finance department and HR department and health department. I think we do it better than anybody else, period. Right? So I could stand here before you as a common council and go, I think you do it just fine, and you shouldn't change a darn thing. And you could sit here and go, yep, you know, we do it just fine, we're not gonna change a darn thing. I can tell you that we don't have enough money to continue to do it the right way, this way. I can tell you that we need to look at options so that we continue to do it the right way, and which is to provide the best service to our constituencies, right? That's why we're doing this. Do you think, honestly, as a person who was born and raised here, who went to the schools here, who graduated from high school here, who probably knows thousands of people within this community, that I would just willy-nilly say, you know, I want to go work with West Dallas, just because it sounds cool? Or do you think I would think, you know, I like Greenfield, I've committed my entire life to this like you all have, right? Right? And I want to make sure that the people that live here are served in the best way they can, in a cost-effective, fiscally prudent way that we can. That's where we're at. My concern about having people and people can show up, and people can, and they are, and they're writing on Facebook, and they're writing, I'm told, and here and there, all over the place, right? About all the things that we're doing, right? When we haven't even started yet. People can say whatever they want, right? And they will, and they do. And I hear about it, and we all hear about it all the time. but I would ask for some patience so that before we start taking input, we have something to describe. Because I would just prefer not to have somebody up there asking all sorts of questions about things that I don't have answers for yet, because I haven't even talked about it yet. I do have a list, a rolling list in my head of all the things that we need to do, which is funding, governance, facilities, capital equipment, how does this all fit in? How does a district fit in? What's the representation? Who does what? How do we save? Who keeps an eye on it? Is there a new, all of that stuff is still to be determined.
Healthcare, retiree, healthcare, social
Retiree
security.
healthcare, right?
Payments, paying, not paying.
All paying, not paying, what stays, what goes, right? What has been the experience in other consolidated departments, right? How do other people join this fire department, which ultimately might be a fire district? And there are other communities that may have an interest in doing it.
Kind of like a utility, potentially?
Kind of like a utility.
That would be good.
It's kind of like a utility. I can assure you, and I think Alderperson Bailey and Alderperson Collins were just at the League of Municipalities convention, right? And there was a whole discussion, breakout session. Unfortunately, Alderperson Bailey was in Public Works because he likes it better, so he got out there. Alderperson Collins was at the EMS portion of it, and it was some pretty hot discussion going on there. The EMS system is in a state of disrepair right now. It's not got long. And if we don't figure it out now, then shame on us, right?
I agree.
So that's all I got to say.
The only
I would encourage you all to just be patient while we work through it.
The only thing permanent is
I
change.
guess if someone wants to talk during citizen commentary.
They certainly can.
They have that right to do that.
I'm not going to be able to answer
Absolutely.
them, but yeah.
Absolutely.
No,
And we can't answer it anyway.
That's
so.
right.
But
You don't answer, but at least they'll have,
Right.
they'll let it off their chest, as
Right.
they say.
No, I think that's great. And I think the people within our community have grown to recognize that our police and fire departments are really good and really responsive. Would you say that, Jay, as the chief? Especially the fire department, right? Just kidding. But, so of course you're going to be envious and jealous and you want to keep that, right? You don't want to give that up.
It's
I don't want to
only
give that
natural.
up.
It's
Only
only
natural. I don't want to give it up either.
So,
So, yeah.
there you go.
All right, there you go.
Okay.
Budget, we're on next one?
Yep, sorry about that.
I don't even know. What's the next item?
So,
Item 13.
so just one quick thing. Item B, I don't think we have that. There is nothing to discuss. There was going to be some. And item C, there's nothing. We don't have anything for B or C, so it's basically just A.
Okay. Item 13, discussion and decision to go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes, section 19.85, 1CEF, to consider the following. A, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Do I hear a motion?
Motion. Second. To go into closed session.
Okay, may I have a roll call, please?
Alderperson Kastner?
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey?
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian?
Aye. Committee to go into closed session at 6:43 PM.